Yo, most people have absolutely no clue what just went down in Minnesota, and they're thinking they got it all figured out. Like, Ilhan Omar's in trouble, ICE is doing raids, Trump's mad, case closed. Right? Wrong. This is way bigger than that. And when you see the whole picture, it's wild how calculated this actually is. So check it out. Trump came out swinging, calling out the Somali community in Minneapolis, saying they've ripped off billions from the system during the pandemic. And then he zeroed in on Omar, throwing serious shade at her personal life and questioning whether she should even be in Congress, which is a huge move because it flips the story from a simple fraud investigation into a full-on national debate about loyalty, assimilation, and who actually has the country's best interests at heart. At the same time, federal prosecutors confirmed that dozens of people, like around 59 already, maybe up to 73 soon, are being investigated for these scams. And the timing couldn't be more strategic. ICE is rolling into the Twin Cities, going door to door, checking IDs, making this super visible, turning what might have been a boring local enforcement thing into a national spectacle. And that's not by accident. The thing is, Minnesota has historically been welcoming to immigrants, and the Somali community there is huge, but the state's social safety nets created vulnerabilities, emergency aid programs were set up fast, relying on third parties, and there weren't enough guardrails. So yeah, people exploited the system. But the way Trump framed it, the focus isn't just on the crime, it's on Omar and the community leadership defending these alleged scammers, which turns the whole narrative upside down and forces them onto defense. This isn't the first time a politician has amplified a story to get leverage, but what makes this different is the layering. Rhetoric, enforcement, and media coverage all hit at the same time, forcing Omar to respond publicly while the narrative spins nationally. Now, historically, immigrant groups like Italian Americans faced internal pressure to reject crime, like with the mafia, but here the leadership seems to be framed as enabling it, which is the opposite, and that reversal hits hard in the perception game. People aren't just seeing legal enforcement, they're seeing a culture clash story amplified for political effect, and timing is everything. The raids and Trump's comments come just as more indictments are on the way, meaning the story gets the spotlight before Omar can pivot or spin it, and that's exactly how you seize narrative control. So when you watch this play out, it's not just about law enforcement, it's about strategic positioning. First, signaling that accountability applies no matter who you are, sending a message that Trump and his allies aren't letting political status shield anyone. Second, it forces Omar and local leaders into reaction mode, spending energy clarifying or defending themselves rather than pushing policy or narratives. Third, it sets precedent for future federal enforcement in Minnesota and beyond, creating long-term leverage. And fourth, it reshapes public perception of the Somali community, linking alleged fraud to assimilationist and loyalty arguments, which has an impact far bigger than any single case. And the coordination is insane. While people are glued to the raids and headlines, prosecutors quietly expand the indictments, local officials scramble to defend themselves, and Trump reinforces his brand as the guy holding entrenched systems accountable. Three things happening simultaneously that compound the story, forcing opponents to react instead of controlling their own messaging. It's political chess at its finest, and the lesson is clear. Round one victories, like a few indictments or public statements, don't matter as much as momentum and narrative control. And every move here, from rhetoric to media amplification to visible enforcement, was designed to maximize those effects. So what's coming next? Minnesota didn't become the center of a historic fraud accident. It became the center of a historic oversight failure. And that failure belonged to people who were too distracted, too careless, or too comfortable to enforce basic protection of public funds. Billions disappeared, gone, and all we got was a PR answer about new programs and missing guardrails. That is unacceptable, because if politicians can't handle accountability, they shouldn't have authority. If they can't safeguard money, they shouldn't be allowed to allocate it. And if they can't accept responsibility, they shouldn't be representing anyone. That's what leadership means. And until that standard exists, again, scandals like Minnesota's will keep happening, the money will keep disappearing, and same politicians will keep going on TV with that same annoyed expression, bothered not by the fraud itself, but by the fact that someone finally dared to ask why.